当てるさ。それ以外に何か言う必要はあるかい？当てるシーズン。
William Tell is a 3-star arts archer who excels at dealing high damage with powerful crits. He can provide everything he needs to hit hard by himself, but he lacks any sort of real survivability, and his damage mainly comes in short bursts with long gaps between them. His first skill is Uri's Hunter, which inflicts skill seal on a single enemy for 1 turn, and also gives you 30 critical stars. This can easily set up some powerful critical hits, although its long cooldown of 6 turns does hold it back quite a bit. His second skill, Unwavering Perseverance, increases his arts card performance by 30% for 3 turns, and also gives him complete immunity to debuffs for those 3 turns. The arts buff by itself is already quite strong, but getting debuff immunity for 3 whole turns is kinda insane. Once again, the cooldown is 6 turns, meaning this skill will be active roughly half the time. His third and final skill is simply called Aiming. He's actually the only character in the game that has this skill, so I guess none of the other archers actually bother taking aim. Really though, that's a massive shame, because this skill is quite good. It increases his critical damage by a whopping 100% for 1 turn, and also increases his critical star gather rate by 1000%. This skill lets him hit really hard for 1 turn, and it combos very nicely with his first skill, which gives him the stars he needs. This skill has a cooldown of 5 turns. His Noble Phantasm, Apfelschießen, gives Tell sure hit for 1 turn before dealing damage to a single enemy. The damage dealt is dramatically increased if the enemy has dodge status, but not unremovable dodge status. To be honest, this NP feels extraordinarily underwhelming. It really doesn't bring anything new to the table, since both Billy the Kid and Robin Hood already have sure hit. Sure, the bonus damage is nice, but realistically speaking, how often is that gonna come into play? It's a real shame too, because William Tell can spam his NP quite frequently. William Tell's primary function is to be a damage dealer in an arts team. You have a lot of options when it comes to how to support him. The most obvious recommendation here would be Tamamo, since she can both buff his damage and help alleviate the issue of his long cooldowns. Other good choices include your standard fare of buffers, like Hans, Waver, Caster Gilgamesh, Prince of Lendling. You have a ton of options here. If you want to focus more on his buster crits, you can even go for someone like Merlin or Nightingale, although you will be losing out on NP damage. The main thing to keep in mind is that Tell himself doesn't have any sort of survivability, so you have to keep him safe somehow. And of course provide him with stars. I guess you can technically also use him just for the star drops if you really want to, but in that case he's just a much worse Mozart. When it comes to craft essences, you'll want to have a look at your party and see what kind of buff they're most lacking in. For example, if you're running Tell alongside Tamamo and Hans, you'll mostly be needing an attack buff. In such a case, Golden Sumo would be the ideal choice for him. On the other hand, if you're running something like Waver and Hans, you might want to focus on his arts performance instead and give him a CE like Formal Craft. If your team ends up being something like Tamamo and Castergil, then you'll probably want to focus on critical damage instead, with something like Another Ending. As for command codes, I feel that generic damage upgrades will do just fine for him. Whether you want to stick with the generic low star stuff, or give him something really impressive like Linchpin of Heaven, is entirely up to you. You could also choose to give him command codes that increase certain cards' star gather rate. This could be useful if you want to make sure certain cards get the stars over others, to ensure, say, arch crits over buster crits. Generally though, he already has such a naturally high C-star gather rate that this feels like overkill. The biggest issue for William Tell isn't really related to his kit itself, but more so that there are already so many strong single-target archers like Robin Hood and Urieli. While it is true that William Tell can crit for much more damage than Robin can, he doesn't come even remotely close in terms of NP damage. And if the target is male, there's no reason not to use Urieli. Now, with that said, William Tell is still a perfectly serviceable damage dealer. He's just a little more niche. If you like him, use him, just don't expect him to be a game changer.
わしは英雄なんてもんじゃない。ただの漁師で、ただの父親だが、それでも守るべき者のために戦わなくてはならんことはある。お前さんのまっすぐな目でそれを思い出したよ。だからまあ これからもよろしく頼むわ。